Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here, playing Hearts of Iron 3's Black Ice. We're, of course, playing as the USA. We're not doing so well. The Axis isn't doing terribly great either. Italy's doing good just because Britain can't supply the forces facing it. So that's like our only sort of saving grace, or their saving grace, in my opinion, is Britain is doing so poorly. Of course, we're sinking Japanese convoys in the North Atlantic somehow. Much of America's fleets are retreated into port here. Pause. Okay, you guys, you head back to Honolulu to get properly repaired. Well, come here. Out there. Much more, but we'll move a little more into supply production. Okay. If I could just give things like transports to Britain. No. We're doing all right, Soviet Union, but well, certainly you could have crude oil, Ireland. They get to see a mushroom cloud. Okay. So Italy is now attacking into Saudi Arabia, and my HQ area is helping in the defense. Okay, fuselage aerodynamics. That is here, okay. Aircraft prototype evaluation, that'll help. Okay, looks like we won here. Good. We'll probably attack again, but yes, you can have metal. No, we don't want fuel from you. You dash across to there. Canada would like a submarine, sure. Would like to produce one. Using my technology, which is fine. Someone stole some of our blueprints, don't know that we know who. Okay, the Dutch, we give them money for supplies. No. And Brazil would like to also produce a submarine. I guess our submarine models are popular. Oh, pause. Cape Wrath. For some reason, Italy was moving at least a destroyer, 2 torpedo boats, and a light landing craft up here. Why, I don't know. Okay, yes, we'll get Division Headquarters, Black Panthers. Okay, Navy wants money, yes. Air Force wants money, they don't really need it. Fine. long for this game? Another fireside chat. And not now, but in 6 months or so, you can come back and talk to me. Battle out here. With what? I mean, I saw it was Germans, but band factories in Omaha. Okay. Motorized cavalry, good. Normally I don't do that as Germany, but here I thought it would be a good idea. Oh, the defensive division positions go bye-bye, as in not researching it anymore at the time. Well, you know, let's look here. We'll think about we've got enough resources. We don't need any more resources. But we could produce supplies cheaper, so that would help us. We need our newfound units at good organization levels for the invasion. Coming up. A few more. Kill some more. Oh, don't go away. Stay there. Oh shit, look at Italy's transport fleet. And some motorists. I know it has a... I don't think those are actual carriers. They just have the symbol there. Like they're going this way. Army asks for money. You know, no, it doesn't. Okay, United Mine Workers of America strike. More than 480,000 American coal miners walk off the job a minute after midnight when the United Mine Workers contract with the nation's mining companies expired. U.S. President Roosevelt notified the UMWA President John Lee Lewis to cease the wartime work stoppage by 10 a.m., an order which was ignored, and then issues an executive order directing that the Secretary of the Interior is authorized and directed to take immediate possession so far as may be necessary or desirable of any and all mine producing coal in which a strike or stoppage has occurred or is threatened, and at the time there was only a 3-week supply of coal for American steel manufacturers and a 10-day supply for some railroads. The strike would continue on and off until an agreement was reached in November 1943. Okay, time for some of the gamers' commentary here. This is why unions are bad. Now, unions are also good. Unions... Hello, Exergen. Yes, we have joined the Allies. Britain is not doing well. I'll give you a rundown of what's going on in a moment if you just hang out a little bit more. Unions, you know, like many things in life, have both good and bad elements to them. But this is why unions are bad. Because prior to the strike, you know, prior to the strike going out, the unions thought that the working conditions, the pay, and whatever else were acceptable. Okay? They thought they were acceptable. They were negotiated at some point. They think they were acceptable. And then all of a sudden, as soon as the contract is over, they're going to try to, again, as we talk about how much of the union organizers in America are, what did one commentator put it, vaguely socialist minded. Okay. Again, I know I mentioned this. Exergen, my friend who's been a long-time player of Third Reich events, long before I ever had a channel, so he's a good friend around, is a wonderful figure painter for not just war game figures, but various miniatures. Super high quality stuff. And you maybe want to throw a link. I don't know if there's anybody wants to follow your link on Twitter. He periodically posts photos of his work there, and it's really good. Just to give him a shout out there. Okay, so these, union organizers are vaguely socialist. Instead of the idea of growing the pie, they just want to get their fair share of pie. So what are there? So this is contract negotiations. This isn't, hey, things are so terrible, we have to go on strike. No, it's the contract that we negotiated however long ago is now up, and we want to negotiate a better contract. Okay, I understand that. So we go on strike. And I don't know. Yes, I know I'm talking out my ass here. I don't know. Oh, good. Pie. What the previous contract was, and I don't know what they're asking for. Okay. Are they asking for twice as much pay or a 1% increase in pay? I don't know. And yes, I do understand that when they negotiated the contract originally, there very well may be inflation, and they, to keep the same standard of living, they need, inflation has been 20% up since, like, let's say when they started the contract, so they should have a 20% pay raise. I'm not saying everything is wrong in striking or in negotiations, not at all. But here's sort of the kicker is, again, not that they shouldn't ever strike, and not that they shouldn't ask for whether it's better working conditions or better benefits or better pay. Not saying they shouldn't, because times change, things develop, new contracts. But they're effing doing this in the middle of the war. Okay, so like I've bitched and moaned about Australian dock workers striking, I will bitch and moan about this. So this isn't like, hey, things are just going along and we're finding working conditions too bad. No, it's when the contract is up, we immediately go on strike because, and presumably they've been talking prior to the contract going up, they haven't acceded to our demands. Okay, I don't know what their demands were enough, whatever that means, that the mine owners organizations weren't willing to give them some changes. Maybe they were all evil mine worker owners. None of this is stating in here. I'm going just by what's stated here. None of this is stated that as soon as the contract was up, the mine owners cut their pay in half or reduced any sort of benefits, any sort of pay, or increased their work time, or anything changed. It was just the contract was up and they immediately go on strike. Now again, in peacetime, that might not be such a big issue. But where I would find it a big issue in peacetime is I'd have to see what they were asking for. If they were asking for, like I say, pay raise from the earlier contract based upon levels of inflation or something like that, then I would be supportive of mine work and the mine owners not willing to give it. Then I would be willing to, okay, it's good to strike. in peacetime. In wartime, no, this is not appropriate. It you just don't, because again, I'm presuming the working conditions. I don't know what miners were paid in 1943. I do know that during the Depression, prior to this period, in the mid 30s, 1930s, you were just sort of lucky to have a job, right? Honestly, so they may not be paid very well at all, but they're probably paid better than soldiers. So what I would have considered doing is, if I was, instead of lining a bunch randomly up against the wall and then go 1 out of 10 taking them out, because you randomly line them up so you don't know where the 10th person is going to be, take 1 out of 10 out and shoot them, just so that we go down by 10% in mine workers, but the other 90% are very motivated to get back into the mines. Instead of doing something draconian like that, though I wouldn't be untempted, because you're literally killing people by stopping work minage if you have only 3 weeks supply of coal for American steel, and steel needs to have coal 24/7. You can't, to interrupt coal steel production. It's not like you can just shut it down for an hour or a day. It's sort of a continuous sort of process. But yes, you do shut down, a particular part of a plant to do maintenance or whatever. But you don't want to just shut it down and start it up and shut it down, start it up. It's got to be running, and you only have 10 days for some of the railroads. So I'm presuming this isn't because there are a bunch of private all the railroads were basically private then, but some small local railroad owning thing, some small company. There were small companies that owned just bit of track here and there and ran a few trains or whatever. We're talking, presumably, if this is showing up in this level of an event, a reasonably major regional railroad company of some sort, So you only have 10 days of that, and you stop railroad movement, and even you don't, if, and the way my understanding, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have the Illinois Railroad Company and you have the Wisconsin Railroad Company up here, Wisconsin Railroad Company rail cars go from here onto the Illinois Railroad Company. They start here. They don't stop here, unload, and put them onto other cars. No, they traverse multiple companies' train lines. But if Illinois Railroad runs out of coal company, that means trains coming from here need to refuel down here. So it shuts off movement of more than just maybe the company that's running out of coal. It shuts off strategic lines of communications. It's as effective as if you are, a military strike is shutting down the railroad for however number of days it might be. It's equal to a military strike. This is why you may go, Gamer, you're just extremist wanting to shoot people. Hello, Bob is cool. And I may have overall or large visceral reactions to something like this during wartime, and I'm talking during wartime. Okay, but what I would really, in a practical sense, is once this is becoming apparent, if I was President Roosevelt, I would quickly talk to the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives to pass a special Selective Service Act, or whatever it was, called, for drafting people, and draft all of these mine workers into the Army and put them on Army pay, which I will almost guarantee you, I would bet I'd bet $50 is going to be less than the coal workers' general pay. I'm not saying some extreme low level or extreme whatever, but general pay. is the Army pay was, I mean, it was a lot more than, let's say, the British Army pay, but Army pay wasn't really meant to like support a family. It wasn't, and these are mostly single income families here that they're setting up to pay. It was meant to sort of pay the soldier kind of thing. It wasn't meant to pay for the soldier and his wife and 2 kids. These were, mostly unmarried or married, but the wife can stay at, whether her parents or his parents' home or something while he's off at war. It wasn't really meant to, run a family on a. So I would put them, if they don't immediately get back to work, draft them into the Army and station their unit at that coal mine with orders to mine. And oh yes, if you don't do that, you're now, in essence, disobeying orders. And during wartime, though it's not in the face of the enemy, so I don't know that it's a shooting offense, but it's an imprisonment for years offense. So I would just simply draft them into the Army or have that very real threat if you don't immediately get back to work. And don't, if you stop, if you, once they pass that, you strike for an hour, you're drafted, is what I would have done to make sure that this runs on time. And once the war is over, or hey, it's 1945, things are going pretty damn well, Germany's beaten, we're thinking about going to Japan, then I could lighten up on the idea and, okay, work out your contract. I get that. Like I say, in peacetime, if you're not asking for too much beyond whatever, then yeah, okay, I actually support, not just, I'm not talking, because I could think it's legal to strike, and, but say that they're asking too much. But I would, if it's just asking for like, pay raises based upon inflation or other, increased safety standards over time. What was it like in the 1930s versus 1950s safety standards? None of these guys here look like they have hard hats on. Have the company say the company's got to pay for, hard hats or whatever it might be. Yes, I am for over time improving conditions. And if the, coal mine owners don't want to do that, well, yeah, then I'm, okay. So we're having, now notice here, it is until January 1968, which just basically means until the end of the game or until the effect is removed by another event or some such thing. So I don't know if we have massive amounts, and this may actually put us into, now I'll get to your question here in a moment. Bob is cool. So yeah, that, reasonably I would be saying I'm going to draft you, and your Army service is immediately go back in that mine and do your job. And if you don't, you're going to, military prison. And you're going to be convicted for it, which may be a sentence a lot longer than the war. And you won't be paid while you're in prison. So yeah, get to work. I would also be entirely different on my viewpoint if that event was talking about, well, safety standards have been lowered because of the war, and X number of miners had been, hurt in accidents over the normal, whatever. So if you had a reason that other than simply the contract ended, I would be a lot more sympathetic to your striking in the middle of a war. Okay, let's go back up here. Yes, please do follow Big Surgeon's Twitter account. It's really good. Stuff for you. Apple pie is great. Okay. In fact, you can't shut down steel furnaces. Yeah, you can't without that. Well, you have to shut them down in such a way. Because I know at some point they have to do some level of maintenance, but you can't just like shut it down because you don't have the coal coming in. Modern ones, anyway, just assume it's you're probably right. So yeah, that's equal to a sabotage group blowing up your steel factory. It's not. This isn't a trivial strike. This is a strike that helps the enemy significantly materially, and it when you have literally millions of Americans, where of course, there's other millions of people around the world that are being affected by the war. I don't want to minimize them, but we have to look at this as an American event through American eyes. When you have literally millions of Americans interrupting their lives, now a lot of them may be, in the Navy, but they're, working at a U.S. port, so their lives may not be threatened with hazardous action. Now, of course, there's also, American lives storming ashore on D-Day or Iwo Jima during the war. But, not all Americans are in that level of jeopardy in the war, but you're all these millions of Americans interrupting their lives, going into the military to fight in the war, and you get, whether you want to call that workers' greed or unions' greed or whatever, to just because the contract ends, not because of whatever else. And that is okay. Well, maybe he has air conditioning, Bob. I invaded and taken over Leningrad as Finland. Okay. And Moscow in the winter. Well, yes. Taking over Bulgaria. Yeah. So, yeah. Maybe just Bob has air conditioning, so Bob is cool instead of hot. Right. So that's my commentary on these things. I'm not against the existence of unions. I am not. I think unions have now, since at least the 1970s, though the seeds were planted well before that. But since the 1970s, and I've been paying attention, at least closely paying attention since the 80s, personally. But since the 1970s, they have been a major detriment on America, and to the point that Detroit, Detroit has become a ghost town, almost literally. Now the suburbs around it that were never union controlled are still sort of functioning. And other major industrial centers are gutted up in the Northeast, all in states in which the unions, through the Democratic politicians, had massive control, and that in a lot of industries, to work in that industry, you must join the union, to where much of the car companies that either had been there or foreign car companies like, say, Toyota, have come and built factories down in the American South, because although they very well may have a union, you're not forced to join that union. It's an at-will work state. So the policies down here that have been Republican have drawn in the either new industries, or the industries have moved out of the old industrial heartland and moved south, because I was also able to move south because of air conditioning, literally, in buildings, and so you can work inside here year-round now without having too much problem that you couldn't in the 1930s. You did have air conditioning, but not air conditioning in factories or anything like that. So they've put policies into place that have destroyed. Yeah, the guys who still union members that still have a job, they're up here. They're paid very well, extremely well. But the number of jobs that are unionized that they can do are shrinking. So they are doing much more harm than good. What will you do after you're done with Germany? Well, I don't know if we're going to take down Germany or Japan first. We're basically, so far, my plans are only to fight out World War II. I mean, I'm not going to declare war on the Soviet Union, I don't think, or anything like that. That's not in the plans. Uh-oh, they pushed me out of here. Oh, why am I retreating north to there? Oh, good. We got much more of the German transport fleet. Okay, keep moving south. Or the Italian transport fleet. Why did you retreat it into there? You're not even damaged. It was probably freaking allies that made you retreat. And more. Okay, pause. Keep moving south. Don't go too far, but I don't want you going into a German port or something. Or just off the German port to get bombarded. Venezuela oil incoming. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, Venezuela severed diplomatic relations with Italy, Germany, and Japan, and after implementing, with help from the United States, defenses on oil wells, produced vast oil supplies to the Allies. Yes, Venezuela used to be, until the communists took over, literally. They got elected. They tried to do, Hugo Chavez tried to do a coup when he was commanding the parachute unit that he did, and it failed. And then they allowed him to run for president after trying to overthrow the government with a violent coup. Crazy people. And Venezuela went from probably one of the greater success stories of a middle class Latin American country into one of the more impoverished ones, and they nationalized their oil. So we gain. Well, we should give it to other people because, like, it's just going to disappear. Okay, port strike tactics have improved. Okay, we're going to let that one continue. Yeah, I'm mostly just thinking about how to get to the next step. Okay, we took out a submarine. Okay, well, you guys. Oh, we got the Germans coming in. Okay, let's wait here. Come on, get one of these German units. Fighter ground crew training. Let's move that to twin engine pilot training. Okay, we got a bunch of something. Okay. More aircraft and motor torpedo boats. Good. Nice. Motor torpedo boats have been doing very well for us. So let's, well, the big ticket items. It's not even all that small either. That's nearly, that is a motorized division. Semi-motorized like these, which are still big enough. Well, let's do a couple more semi-motorized divisions. I think we could use those. Well, let's just do this. Let's keep this sort of cheap. We'll pick up a division HQ somewhere else. Yeah, let's throw in anti-tank. So yeah, 24. And another. Those will be helpful. Well, Germany is only doing well up in the north here. Is being pushed back very heavily. So yeah, we're doing good here. It's Britain, or it's Italy is doing so well because Britain is collapsing because they don't have. Oh, it's going to show. Yeah, Italy's doing great here, Exergen, because Britain is not producing enough transports for supplies and is been wrecked. So that when I have forces down here, mostly they've been unable to supply themselves. So we're going to rebase over to here. And you guys come up here because you have been. Well, maybe you're getting more supplies now, but I'm running away. I'm gonna try to hold Saudi Arabia. I can supply in Saudi Arabia. And I can only do so much for the Soviet Union because they're not in my faction. Meaning I can't just send in troops or units or whatever. Okay, Air Force HQs, great. That'll reduce time between attacks. I'm gonna let that continue. You're getting there. I don't know why you were treated. Probably your allies told you to. Okay, yeah, okay, so we're good enough with this core. Let's see, can we put all this on board ship? Yes, we can. Very good. That's what I was hoping for. Now, go to Gibraltar. The British have been able to hold on to Gibraltar. Run at Leningrad, Moscow in 41. Well, that's very good. And in this game, you'll have a lot of tough fight to reduce those down. Ah, got some submarines. Good. We're bombing probably the submarines. Gold mining, getting us our money. Strategic bombing tactics. Okay, we have been doing some strategic bombing, but not a lot. Okay, where is it? Oh, down here. Okay, cancel. Well, no, we can keep that going. It's only 38. Well, you need to use some of those big railway guns and things like that and build city busting divisions. Otherwise, I don't think they will crack. I think they might be getting supplies via an event or something. So, you just got to hit them hard. Do a specialized divisions. Bring up some big railway guns. Pound them in my games, I normally reduce the effectiveness of forts overall for everybody. So just by a bit, there's somewhere between because black ice really ramps up the effectiveness of forts. I normally put it, I would say, roughly between what it would be in halfway between what the black ice team does and what vanilla forts effectiveness are. So it's about halfway in between there. So forts are still a very significant thing. I'm not trying to, nerf everything out to make it easy, but I just think it's overkill. So yeah, that's what you will probably want to do. Yeah. Well, don't wait for fuel. Just get out. Strategically get out of there. You go into a file, into one of the defines file, and just define the strength of forts to be less. I don't know if you can do it on the fly or you have to do it at the start of the game. Because I think it may get properly. I think it maybe actually ends up being saved as part of the save file. So maybe you have to do it prior to the start of a game at the very beginning. I'm not sure on that. I think, but I'm not sure. Maybe you can change it midpoint in the game. And I can take and show you sometime when we're not live on Discord. I could walk you through it if you want, Exergen. I just can't do it right now, but I can, certainly see about doing it sometime. Pause. Radar advances, very good, and I think that is pushing us Yes, too far into the future for research. I know some things you can't, you have to go back because just of all my testing and whatnot, I know you have to go do it before you start playing. I'm not sure on that one. It may be able to be done just whenever. It's just been so long since I know what to do with it, how to do it, but it's been so long since I've gone in and dug in deep and looked at it. I know I have in the past. Okay. You guys are coming here. Good. All right. You guys just generally, well, you can head to here. Here. We've got to create a defensive line a little bit in from the front at the moment. We have to stay out of British territory because we'll starve if we go into British territory. Okay, battleships. You guys can go back up to Scapa Flow and get repaired properly. You guys have been reasonably well repaired, so you guys come out here and patrol.